I now recognize the Honorable Minister of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation, who will introduce the budget vote. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson, and I'd like to say, honorable members here present, I greet you, chairpersons of the portfolio committees on human settlements, water, sanitation, Honorable Semenya and members of the portfolio committee, members of the executive councils who are here, leaders of our financial sector up there in the gallery, landowners and developers, representatives of civil groups and non-governmental organizations, members of the academia and research bodies, members of boards and council of human settlements, entities, public service managers, members of parliament. It is at this point, good afternoon. It is at this point that no doubt I'm expected to say it's good to be back. Well, Kwamagezapa, who are calling me Uyelekai, it's fine. It is good to be back, to be able to complete what one started, that is certain. It is good to be able to complete the work we started as far back as 2009 and be able to take stock of where we are and what still needs to be done. And I must confess, with a few interruptions over the years, here and there, some of them unfortunately negative, we have done extremely well in this sector. This is most probably one of the most difficult budget vote speeches I'll have to deliver, because I actually do not know where to begin to tell the story of this long journey we've traveled together with the department and the portfolio committees and our entities. It's a wondrous story not often told because of the impediment we still face in our backlog. But it's a story that we should tell more often, so we can assure our people that we spend every waking hour working to provide them with accommodation. But let me begin in 2004, when we consolidated our human settlements policy. It won us world acclaim and was recognized by the United Nations entity for human settlements called UN Habitat as best practice. We have been through a golden era of innovation in our housing policy. We call it breaking new ground, and I urge members, honorable members, to acquaint themselves with it. This is our policy, and this is what we are busy with. This is our program of integrating communities that were divided along class and racial lines. This is our program of providing free housing to all who qualify as indigent and affordable housing for low-income earners. It is a comprehensive policy that we have now encoded. What we're dealing with now is ironing out the glitches while rolling out this massive program. We did indeed break new ground in our policy of integration and providing greater variety and better quality. We've been fine-tuning our policies and as the need arose and upscaling our delivery, because we realize that we are facing a whole sea of people coming into the urban areas. As we tested our new policy, we created several new pilot projects. These were called catalytic projects. Catalytic because not only did they serve the purpose of providing us with the objects of our policies, while they were also aimed at generating the private sector support and interest in the partnerships that we required from them. We use this as a model to build on scale and ensure that all the elements of our policy were catered for. We chose a number of sites. Amongst them was Cosmos City, Vleerhof, Olivenhout Bush, Savannah City in Johannesburg, Zanemvula in Port Elizabeth, Konubia in Durban, and many more. We endorsed them to test our policies, to test the market, whether the private sector had the appetite to have joint projects with government. The results were simply amazing. Honorable members would have seen in the exhibition, and if you haven't, I urge you to have a look at the exhibition. But as we work together on this, I would like us to visit some of these projects because they have matured incredibly. Some of these, for instance, Konubia and Cosmos City, which we will showcase on a regular basis, and I want to showcase them to you. It shows what it is possible to do when we're catering primarily for our major client, the indigent, and make sure that we are catering also for the entirety of the social ladder. We use the concept of catalytic projects because, starting from a low base of resources, we worked to partner with the private sector to fund our projects and to turn these into integrated living spaces consisting of all the amenities required by our communities, including business centers and industrial zones and all of those areas that are necessary for recreation. I believe one of our biggest shortcomings has been our inability to fully communicate our many successes to our people. Because if we did, South Africa would know what has been provided in the space of human settlements. These catalytic projects are our cities in the making, and in the process, we've provided more than 4 million houses and housing opportunities. This consists of more than 1,000 service sites and more than 3,200,000 housing units completed. Despite these achievements, we remain with a registered backlog of 2,300,000 people who are still waiting for housing, and it is growing. It is growing because urbanization is one of those unstoppable phenomena of our time, especially on the African continent. I've yet to learn, however, of a government that has been able to provide as much for the poorest of society within the context within which we have had to operate to remove the indelible apartheid spatial pattern and put pressure and expectation on ourselves to meet the expectations of our people. We have delivered our first million, when we delivered our first million houses to a disbelieving world, the United Nations gave us an award as the first developing country to achieve a mark of 1 million houses. We've now provided 4 million, so they've given up on us. We delivered this. These were delivered by a free government, and we're leading a country in a developing world. Our vision and our policies are being gradually updated to ensure that our rate of delivery meets our expectation, or the expectation of our people. However, of course, the problem remains with increased urbanization and breaking up of households into smaller units. There is still a lot more that we need to cover. South Africa has been instrumental in the conceptualization of human settlements, and we have a responsibility to stay ahead in our implementation. It is working for us because it caters for the injustices of our spatial patterns. Success is in sight, however. Our biggest challenge remains the demand for housing that far outstrips the delivery and the stubborn separateness of our past. Our catalytic projects, which we now have and we now call our new cities, cater for that in some small measure. In the next 5 years, we are determined to declare 94 priority development spaces for human settlements, development, and multi-purpose programs of an integrated delivery to fully transform our spatial patterns. The identification of these areas has already been completed, with an initial 58 already gazetted for consultation. Municipalities and provinces must be commended for embracing and supporting the proposed priority development areas. Those that have not done so, please, I urge you to engage with this and accept our proposals to you. We don't have much time. The transformation and consolidation of our human settlements can no longer be deferred. No excuses be made. We're building new integrated, functional, and inclusive settlements. These settlements may vary in size and complexity, but all share a similar common element. For instance, there is no reason why Tabazimbi or Emalahleni and Malhosana cannot become a new town instead of the ghost cities that they are distressed from long-term mining. These are perfect spaces of opportunity to be transformed and consolidated as vibrant, thriving urban centers offering the best of the 21st century living. Our inner cities of Johannesburg, Pretoria, Germiston, Durban, East London, and Bloemfontein cannot and must not be allowed to decay. These are priority spaces and represent the finest opportunity for spatial transformation and consolidation through renewal programs and harnessing their inherent economic momentum within the cities. Similarly, our townships that include Khayelitsha, Soweto, Umlazi, Sishiro, Kanyamazane must be transformed from dormitory settlement status to vibrant economic hubs that point the way towards the future city precincts where property values are competitive in a fully functional property market. We have long accepted that settlements in their variety as villages, towns, and cities are a must and must be changed to attract economic activity and growth. As we proceed to build new settlements and consolidate existing neighborhoods, we are inspired by the special economic zones and the reindustrialization programs that are aimed at economic growth throughout our country. In the development of these priority areas, our partners stand ready to co-invest and see the blending of public investment with private capital and equity to ensure increased and rapid delivery. We are resolute. We're building new neighborhoods, new houses, new cities. We're consolidating our urban spaces. As we build new settlements, we must also renew existing neighborhoods and precincts that are dilapidated and suffer ravages of neglect and poor maintenance. Our budget, although limited compared to the housing and settlements needs facing us, will be directed towards our delivery priorities and priority development areas. We are glad to note that the draft legislation on the expropriation of land has already been published, and we hope that the process will be fast-tracked. If the bill is adopted as it currently stands, we would like to take advantage of the following proposal, which I will read to you, around abandoned property. The draft bill says, and I quote, and I'm very glad to recognize Minister Tulas Ngesi, who made this possible in his previous dispensation, and I quote, "Where the owner of the land has abandoned the land, we will seize that land." And we would like this definition to include hijacked buildings. Where we have hijacked building, we will expropriate those hijacked buildings. We would like to expropriate these in order to create social housing. And secondly, where land is owned by the state or state-owned enterprises, we would like to expropriate that. We will, however, follow the correct route and make sure that all the necessary steps are followed. We would like to be the first to be given the advantage to choose land because our people need to be settled in the most comfortable areas possible. I'm glad that Parliament has finally got to this point where we are able to expropriate land, and I'd like to be the first taker. I thank Parliament for the opportunity that they have afforded me. The draft legislation determines that no land will be expropriated for any other reason except for public interest. I cannot see that there is any greater public interest than that what we represent in human settlements. It should therefore be possible for us to be the first to benefit from this legislation. In 2009, the Housing Development Agency signed an agreement of alienation of ownership with the provincial government of the Western Cape to transfer land that belonged to them to the HDA so that human settlements could be created for the people of the Western Cape. And as soon as the DA took control of the Western Cape, they reversed that legal agreement. I am giving notice today that we will expropriate that land that had been given to us in 2009 and make sure it is given back to HDA. During my budget vote address of 2017, I proudly announced the launch of the Human Settlements Development Bank. The bank was set up as an apex-level financial institution catering for the housing needs across the human settlement supply chain. Once fully established, the bank will be central to all financing activities and market-making activities across the housing supply chain. At the wholesale level, the bank will participate directly in risk funding of large-scale development projects and programs, as well as facilitate the fund requirements of housing finance intermediaries operating in the social gap markets. The bank already supports a number of specialized asset-based social housing finance entities. This model is not new. In the not-so-distant past, building societies performed very much the same work as we intend to take over in the bank. and provided much of the, no, not at all. After I've expropriated, I am very relaxed. This provided for much of the quality needed to extend into the mortgage and building of new homes. We will follow this enhancement to our work. The approach ensured much needed focus and support for housing. Today, our people are confronted on the streets of the townships and cities with branches belonging to micro-lenders. This has created a culture of consumption borrowers, spenders at great cost to themselves. I think these are called obomashonisa. For your information, the new bank that we have will play an active role in developing the models of housing banks that will address these challenges at both national and local level. We are attending to the challenges of the South African residential market that is still very dualistic. One part functioning and the other and well-resourced, and the other one completely dysfunctional, which is where we live. This is the township housing market, which is nearly 4 million houses and undervalued, leveraged economically, and we need to turn this around. Much of the work has been done towards a vision of a single residential market in the future. An immediate opportunity is available to us to ensure that we can provide our people with the necessary resources to lever themselves out of their situation. At a replacement cost of approximately 350,000 rand per unit, the total market value of the township housing that we have built is approximately 14 trillion rand. That is what we have put into the economy of this country. This is the value we could leverage. To illustrate the enormous benefit of the construction industry, and we are part of that construction industry, we could refer to the 2007 global financial crisis. Contrary to the debilitating effects of the global economy that was experienced in many countries following the 2007 financial crisis, the South African economy was completely unaffected. The main contributory factor being the investment in infrastructure supporting the 2010 World Cup, which not only averted a financial crisis in South Africa, it created tens and thousands of jobs in the construction sector and attracted billions of rands in foreign investment. We've now finished building the stadia, we're now building our catalytic projects, and we will cushion our economy in the same way that it was cushioned in 2007. Having reached this point, we want to take a different direction, however, from what we have concentrated on in the last 15 years. Now that Parliament has agreed for the need for expropriation of land, and a draft bill has been put on the table, we want to ensure that we can ask those South Africans who are able-bodied to take the opportunity to come and work with us and join us in our project so that they can build their own houses. We're open to the idea that has been bandied about by the young people that what they want is land so that they can build their own houses. This we are very open to, and we are going to do that. In the past, the project where people built their own houses was called PHP, which was the People's Housing Program. We have decided that we will rename these programs so that they're self-explanatory, because PHP does not appeal to anybody. Therefore, I'm making a suggestion that those people who are going to be joining us in building their own houses, the program will be called Zenzeleni, which means do it yourself. We believe this is much more empowering tool and will bring greater yield. What's more, this is the answer many of our young people have been waiting for. As part of this approach to encourage people to take up a do-it-yourself concept, I urge people to come together to assist each other to build a house. It has occurred to me in most developing countries where, unlike us, the state does not play a vital role in providing houses. A number of innovative ideas have emerged and have been tested and used. And I was therefore excited to come across the use of a Stokvel idea. As you know, it's a traditional urban practice where people pull together their resources to make better of the little income that they have. I've come across an idea which is working very well, I am told, here in Cape Town. It is called Masake Ladies of Philippi, Crossroads, Khayelitsha, Strand, etc., which has been established as a Stokvel to build houses. And it would have, of course, to be ladies. Men sit there and they know somebody will provide them with a meal in the evening. It is true, but it is true. And I'm expecting the ladies to cheer and applaud. It is true. I have decided that I will find these ladies and I will contribute to their fund. I will contribute to any fund where people come together and build their own houses. I will contribute to make sure that they are successful. The fourth industrial revolution...
Honourable Minister, let me just take this.
No, I will not.
Why is the ANC caucus cheering their failure to build houses for our people?
That is not the
Why
point.
do they cheer their failures?
No,
Useless.
Take your seat, Honourable Member. Take your seat. Continue, Honourable Minister.
We're taking advantage of the fourth industrial revolution to overcome some of our problems. We will, for instance, embrace this to ensure that we use satellite technology and such to make sure that we have real-time information on the ground. This will be a design for purpose, which we can measure the quality of the work of the projects that we're dealing with. It'll also reduce the incidence of bad workmanship. It'll also help us be able to see where land is invaded and act decisively on time. I'm therefore establishing, no, you're not going to invade nowhere. I am therefore establishing a fully fledged and skilled capacitated ICT management unit with the required innovative software and technology that will assist me to do this and will assist the municipalities to make sure that their land is not invaded. Within the next year, we will ensure that we have digitized our entire platform of projects in order for persons to access all relevant information, and we will make this available. We will ensure that we place the details of beneficiaries in the public domain in a similar way as the matric results are done, or were once done, so that anybody who is on the list is able to check how far they are. This will help us reduce corruption, which is part of the problems that we have been experiencing, especially in the award of housing units. We would like to cut down on our turnaround time by 50% if we increase the use of this technology. We want our municipalities to be responsible to issue notices of illegal invasions and follow the law even when we have discovered invasion. We will partner with the private sector to assist where land is available for people to build their own houses. This will ensure that the program is properly managed and the due skills, assistance, and training is given to people who are willing to build their own houses. This is a program we would like to work on an urgent basis to assure our people that we are making an attractive proposition to them. We want to renew our social compact with the banks to revitalize the FLISP program, and I have been informed that the Minister of Finance has asked us to stop using these acronyms like FLISP and make our terminology more user-friendly. The FLISP is Help Me Buy a House. We want to revitalize this program that helps people buy their houses. This is largely meant to help first-term buyers and will benefit greatly government employees, a sector very much in need of our support. The Human Settlements Bank should be part of the banks supporting the market, and the bank will be failing in its responsibility if they do not do so. I give them 6 months to ensure that the bank is fully functional and accessible for all those who require loans to build houses. Just a few days ago, I handed over some title deeds in Conubia in Durban, and I resolved that my deputy minister and I will spend every Friday as a special day to hand over title deeds. I am sure that in this way, between myself and Deputy Minister Pem Chwete, we will be able to clear the backlog in the next 2 years. After the event on Friday, I received a message through social media that has helped me refine my thoughts around the title deeds. The message was that it would be important for people with title deeds to be assisted to write a will to ensure that the asset that they're given, which is given to them as families, is assisted by creating a will to be attached to it. Because when the owner of the house dies, there's a great deal of disputes within the families, and our courts are not geared to deal with these family housing problems. These are our successes. Our successes continue. We have had serious failures. Yes, we have. We have had fraud. We have had corruption. We have had slow delivery. We read about these on a regular basis. We're daily experiencing protests. This is where we need the support of everybody to keep us constantly accountable. This is why I am here, very happy to report to you our successes and say to you we are ready and able to account for any of our failures. Because of the huge pressure we have around housing, people sporadically go out in protest out there. We will take to the media and assure them we've taken a decision, says Figile, we will create an environment very similar to the Soccer World Cup to make sure we take them out of their misery. Members of Parliament, thank you very much. Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I now invite the Honourable Semenya.
Thanks, Honourable Chair. The ANC rises in support of Budget Vote 38 on human settlement. We will equally like to take this opportunity to commend our predecessor under the stewardship of a former chairperson, Honourable Mafu, and to equally congratulate her on the new responsibility as the Deputy Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. On the same note, we would like to welcome our new and returning public representative to this legislative arm of the state and encourage that irrespective of party lines, we commit to working together in performing our function of executing enhanced oversight over the Department of Human Settlement and all its entities with the ultimate goal of improving the quality of life of our people. Rata o tšea le sebaka se re leboge batho ba South Africa ya kile ba re fa mandate re le African National Congress gore re tšwele pele ka o kaonafatša maphelo a bona. Providing a decent housing and a shelter for our people has been a long-standing mission of the African National Congress. Since 1994, the ANC has focused on people who cannot afford to provide for themselves, build a basic free homes, upgrade houses and services in the informal settlement, and work toward restoring the dignity and improving the livelihood of our people. The Freedom Charter captured the ANC's commitment to provide houses, comfort, and security. The African National Congress did not only stop at committing safety and comfort, but also mandate itself with which dismantling discretionary spatial patterns to create integrated and sustainable communities where our people live close to socio-economic activity. The social contract remains our inspiration and strategic guide to realizing a better life for all and realize a South Africa that truly belongs to all who live in it, as stated in our election manifesto. The fifth administration made commendable strides in achieving the following objective within the human settlement sector: increase housing unit in a better located mixed income project, especially in social and cooperative and rental housing, and focus on catalytic projects such as integrated residential program and directing investment and overcome apartheid spatial geography. These achievements are crucial to revitalizing inner cities and mining towns and developing cities. However, the impact of the dire consequences of the segregationist spatial configuration of South Africa by the colonial apartheid state are still massive today. In his State of the Nation address, our President Cyril Ramaphosa highlighted that significant work still needs to be done to ensure that colonial apartheid spatial patterns are unraveled, to ensure that our people live in integrated human settlement with socio-economic actively and do not spend a large portion of their income and time commuting to their place of work. Dismantling apartheid spatial patterns is not going at the desired pace and require the delivery of a significant number of catalytic projects which will play a huge role in recreation of new and integrated communities. Having integrated, sustainable, economically active human settlement is important at we journey behind the President's call to growing the economy of our country. It is based on the reason that spatial integration, human settlement, and local government form part of the priorities that will receive focus from this new administration. Honorable Chair and honorable members, the ANC welcomed this prioritization and the measure of the Department of Human Settlement, water and sanitation to ensure that indeed better life for all is realized. The Portfolio Committee on Human Settlement will continue to provide oversight over the Department of Human Settlement in order to it to fulfill its responsibility of ensuring that dignity, housing, access to social and economic activity is not a privilege, but a lived reality for all our people in South Africa. Government expenditure on housing has grown faster than any other budget since 1994, and South Africa is a world renowned for its housing delivery efforts. The Portfolio Committee on Human Settlement emphasized its support for the 2019-2020 budget for the department so that it can continue in delivering on its task of changing the life of our people. With the world fast approaching the fourth industrial revolution, the role of Development Finance Institute in terms of ensuring that Africa, is not left behind will be crucial. To this regard, we welcome the launch of the Human Settlement Development Bank that was announced by the Minister of Human Settlement. As reflected in her budget speech, the bank will facilitate the increase of provision of housing across the human settlement value chain, and the specific priority for bank in this respect is the mobilization of and the provision of finance for all planned catalytic projects. The 2019-20 budget of 33.8 billion allocated to the Department of Human Settlement is a crucial instrument achieving some of the silent objective of the National Development Plan of transforming human settlement and the spatial economy and securing a well-located land for affordable towards housing and increasing the performance of the lower end of the property market through the supply of affordable houses. The bulk of this budget will go towards Program 4, Human Development Finance. This program is instrumental for housing projects and ensuring infrastructure development to support the upgrading of informal settlement. Through the Urban Settlement Development Grants and Human Settlement Development Grants, the Department of Human Settlement is empowered towards providing sustainable and integrated human settlement and ensuring that our economy grows by including the participation of youth, women, and people with disability through the 30% set aside within the housing value chain. There is a very important element of the economic value chain that is associated in the grants aimed at building sustainable human settlement. We call on the department to ensure that women, youth, and people with disability find expression in the economic value chain to such projects, as this will play a pivotal role in capping the increasing unemployment rate of the country and will upskill the masses of our people with the necessary skill required for them to enter into the market and be active participants in the economy. Honorable Chair and honorable members, The budget is also focused on providing affordable houses to our people who are excluded and cannot access housing opportunity through the banks. The Auditor General of the Republic of South Africa has been generally pleased with the Department of Human Settlement, which has constantly received unqualified audit opinion and has commended the department's financial health, oversight, and monitoring mechanism, as well as its procurement and contract management processes. I know you don't like to hear this one. We further urge the National Department to support municipalities and ensure that our provincial counterparts have the ability to exercise effective monitoring of the conditional grants so as to realize their respective mandate. This performance has, in terms, made the work of the department much more meaningful and impactful, and confronted with the less problem and allow it to closely focus on advancing and delivering of its mandate. However, spending of the urban settlement, development grants and human settlement grants requires attention, Minister. Some metros and some provinces experience challenges and are struggling to perform at a satisfactory level in terms of spending, which translates to an inability to deliver a decent housing, particularly on the upgrading of informal settlement, a crucial commitment of the African National Congress. In conclusion, we are confident that the committee and the department will work together in monitoring and providing oversight regarding the financial performance and the expenditure patterns of metro and provinces, that they should not fail to spend the money that is appropriated by this parliament, because it's for the people of the Republic of South Africa. Malibongwe.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Basson.
Chairperson, the lack of affordable housing in South Africa is a well-documented problem. The housing backlog stands at 2.3 million houses and is growing with approximately 180,000 houses per year. The Socio-Economic Rights Institute estimated that between 2.9 million and 3.6 million people still live in informal settlements in South Africa today. Chairperson, Section 26 of the Constitution stipulates that everyone has the right to adequate housing. In the ANC's first election manifesto in 1994, the party stated, and I quote, "A roof over one's house, a roof over one's head, and reasonable living conditions are not a privilege. They are a basic right for human beings." Chairperson, millions of South Africans are still depriving of this basic right in 2019. People continue to live in appalling conditions where a home is often nothing more than a shack made from whatever material is available, with no running water, no proper sanitation, and no electricity. In 2014, Minister Lindiwe Sisulu boldly declared that the Department of Human Settlements would create 1.5 million new housing opportunities by 2019. This amounts to 300,000 built units per year. Given the fact that the number of built units decreased, this was nothing more than a pipe dream. In its peak in 1999, the government delivered 235,000 built units per year. In 2018, this number has dropped to a shocking 90,000 built units per year. It is clear that the ANC government will never resolve the housing backlog. Government can no longer follow the narrow strategy as outlined initially by the Reconstruction and Development Programme and the then Breaking New Ground programs for addressing the housing backlog, as these have patently failed. Firstly, because many South Africans still do not have houses, but also because the approach has not worked to create integrated cities and towns. Chairperson, the DA believes that there is no single solution that will eradicate the housing backlog. But what is essential is a basket of solutions which can address the issue and give South Africans more choice and a better quality of life when it comes to finding a place to call home. The DA recommends that we take a new approach, give more South Africans safe and dignified living spaces, create more diverse and inclusive cities and towns, bring more people closer to the economy and education activities, definitely densify exercising towns and cities, and providing more opportunities that allow South Africans greater choice when it comes to housing. To do this, we need to give recipients of RDP and BNG houses ownership of the land they live on by giving them title deeds. Thank you, Minister. I appreciate you going to do that on a Friday, but that's not good enough. Create a single national housing database which each province and local government will have to cross-reference to prevent beneficiaries from benefiting more than once. Launch a national housing audit to verify the current ownership of RDP and BND houses, to identify whether
House
houses
Chair.
have been allocated through corruption and
Honourable
has been
Basson,
sold.
will you just take your seat? Why are you rising, Honourable Deputy Minister?
Is Honorable Basson prepared to take a question?
Are you prepared to take a question, Honourable Member?
No, I'm not. There has been surprisingly little innovation in the field of housing within the Department of Human Settlement. Disadvantaged communities in poverty and unemployment are trapped, and they are robbed of a secure livelihood. Minister, there is no time for you to dream like the President. It's time to have a new approach, time to have a plan, time to put South Africa first. And Minister, that time is now.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Mokoto.
Honourable Chairperson, the EFF rejects budget vote 38 on human settlement. South Africa is facing a huge housing crisis, and it will soon blow up in our faces and bring this country to a standstill. Statistics South Africa reports that by 2018, South Africa had a housing backlog of 2.2 million housing units, and the government has only built over 3 million houses since 1994. This means it may take us another 20 years just to build 2 million more houses. This means that at the current pace, there are people who may die without ever having had a proper housing in this country. While this crisis is happening, the ANC is busy destroying houses of black people. Just a few weeks after election results were announced, ANC-led municipalities across the country started on a massive onslaught against our people whose only sin was simply to build houses for themselves. In the Buffalo City in the Eastern Cape, the ANC government destroyed millions of wealth houses of black people who had, out of their own sweat, built themselves houses closer to East London Airport. In Tabankulu, in the Eastern Cape, the local municipality destroyed houses they claimed had been built illegally on municipal land. In Alexander, in Gauteng, a rogue Johannesburg Metro Police Department officials, working with the provincial government, destroyed people's houses under the pretext that they were built illegally. The ANC has been using the law selectively to keep African people homeless in this country. But what this points to, Chairperson, is that there's not overarching vision, no plan, no political will to alleviate the housing crisis in this country. The budget presented here is woefully insufficient to deal with the housing challenges facing our people. And it fails to reimagine the country's approach to the problem of housing backlogs and urban sprawl, and fails to acknowledge that this is a consequence of having a few cities that can reasonably absorb large number of labor. The dispossession of African land in rural areas, the uneven development of cities, the poor employment prospects in rural areas has caused massive urban sprawl that your policymakers have been unable to handle. As a consequence, we have thousands of people flocking in Gauteng, Cape Town, and Durban each and every year because there's no hope of them finding work anywhere else in South Africa. The housing crisis in this country, therefore, is at the same time as a labor crisis. It is about the plight of millions of black people who are unable to find jobs closer to their homes. It is as a consequence of this that black people have been forcibly repossessing land in urban areas to build houses for themselves because your government has been unable to for the past 25 years. The dehumanizing reality of homelessness, the psychological injury of not having a place to call your own are both rooted in history of land dispossession and the brutal apartheid project of social engineering. The state is not out of options and can resolve the housing crisis if there is a political will to do so. This can be done through the following. Do away with apartheid spatial planning and expropriate land without compensation closer to inner city centers to build sustainable housing for all. Establish a state housing company that will progressively build houses for the poor. Improve the quality and size of low-cost houses through the state housing construction company. Ensure that the state regulates housing finance by providing housing finance that does not exceed a period of 10 years. Guarantee integrated human settlements with guaranteed bulk services such as water provision, electricity, sewage systems, parks, and recreation facilities. Convert unused state buildings into affordable houses for the poor, offering people long-term secured leaseholds to these buildings. The state must once and for all clarify the powers of traditional leaders to allocate land for housing in rural areas. People's livelihoods are at risk because of the contestation between traditional leaders and municipalities about who has power to allocate land for housing. Failure to do this will collapse our current cities because we cannot sustainably have any human settlement strategy that will accommodate the current growth of cities. The failure of the post-1994 regime to decentralize economic development and promote industrialization in areas other than those cities developed during colonialism and apartheid means that we will have more and more people moving into a few cities and towns looking for employment and not having any place to stay. The problem of human settlement, therefore, is directly linked to our inability to decentralize development to areas other than our current cities. Unless we do this, we'll continue pumping money for short-term, unsustainable solutions to the human settlement challenge. We reject this budget as EFF. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Member. Now, Honorable Ngwezi of the IFP.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. The constitutionally enshrined right to housing in South Africa for all, especially our poor and most vulnerable, remains an elusive pipe dream and vain promise for millions of South Africans who 25 years into our democracy still struggle with the realization of having their own homes. Informal settlement are burgeoning through rampant urban immigration due to the lack of commercial opportunities, quality education, and basic delivery in rural areas. Yet the Honorable President, in his State of the Nation address, only mentioned rural development 3 times. This, to me, was indicative of the lowest prioritization. Chairperson, as the IFP so succinctly stated in the SONA response before this Honorable House, and I quote, we must ensure that rural and not just urban communities are a priority to as there has never been a successful urban strategy without taking commensurate rural development into account, close quote. Chair, rural and urban communities are in essence two sides of the same coin. And for us to have successful socio-economic upliftment in South Africa, state resources must be balanced between these two sectors of our society in order to achieve the greatest synergy possible. There are many examples of this in other countries. Why are we not emulating these examples, or at the very least drawing from their experiences? Another critical issue is the dilapidated state of many of our hostels, which are underdeveloped and in a poor state of repair. A simple visit to any hostel in KwaMashu, in Cliplands, Thokoza, Davidton, or Sebokeng in Val will show this to be the case. The people in this hostel live in subhuman conditions, many of which could be comparable to the living conditions of our animals and livestock, and in some instances even worse. This is a shame on this government. If we look at RDP houses, some are being illegally occupied, Honorable Minister. The title holders not having occupation in her budget speech last year, the minister announced that the housing backlog stood at 2.1 million, with the department's budget slashed by billions. The hole is getting deeper and deeper, Honorable Minister, and South Africans are not receiving what they have been promised. Backyard dwellers are still in what they have amply described at their cages, and government still has no policy to address this issue. People are denied title deeds, and there is little development in these previously disadvantaged areas. When these dwellers move onto vacant land for shelter, they are being evicted. Honorable Minister, there must be urgent resolution and policy in this matter. If one looks provincial in KZN, listen to this carefully, listen to this carefully. If we look in KZN, in the previously run NFP and now IFP run Nongoma municipality, one would note that in 2012, in Ward 2 and 5, 2,000 units were actually promised and contractors were appointed, but construction has never begun. In Kandla, in Ward 6, same story. In Umhlatuze, in the previous ward, which was Ward 5 in the then Tambanana municipality, but now Ward 33, same story. Contractors were appointed, but then the construction has never begun. This needs an urgent attention. This is the mess in some of the municipalities the IFP inherited when it regained control of these municipalities from now defunct NFP. We are hard at work in these areas in delivering houses and services to the resident. Honorable Chairperson, allow me to conclude by stating the status quo as it is today, 25 years into our new democracy. There is little change. Not that we don't see change, but it is too little. Poverty has been somewhat addressed, but by and large, our poor and most vulnerable have not seen the change. This government must do better, and the IFP, Honorable Minister, will partner together with you in assuring that the mandate of this department is achieved, and we accordingly support this budget debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable May of the FF Plus. Honorable May, FF Plus.
Meneer die voorsitter, I believe in dreams. Ek het in die 60er jare was ek 'n lid van die polisie wat verantwoordelik was vir die beveiliging van die eerste minister. Op ons pad vanaf Kaapstad na Pretoria het ek vir my vriend in die polisie gesê, one day I would like to return to Cape Town, but not as a policeman. I want to become a member of parliament. 50 years later, my dream came true and I entered the National Assembly. There's a saying, once a policeman, always a policeman. En daarom wil ek vandag hulde bring aan elke polisieman en vrou in hierdie land. Die Vryheidsfront Plus sal julle ondersteun sover dit moontlik is. Ek wil vir u sê, ek is 40 jaar in die eiendomsbedryf. Ek beskou myself as 'n grondvlak politikus. Ek het gesien hoe plakkerskampe oornag opskiet. Maar dit gaan nie net oor plakkerskampe nie, alhoewel nie een van ons in hierdie land wil sien dat iemand in 'n 3-by-3 sinkgebouetjie moet woon sonder water en sonder elektrisiteit en dan nog honger gaan slaap nie. Ons wil dit nie hê nie, meneer die voorsitter. Maar, meneer die voorsitter, ek het ook gesien dat jong mense, en dan praat ek van alle rasse in Suid-Afrika, wat min geld verdien, maar tog kan bekostig om 'n paaiement te betaal op 'n woonhuis, nie een kan koop nie, want daar word nie voorsiening gemaak nie. En ek wil ook vandag vir daardie mense opkom en sê, laat die regering van die dag planne maak om ook hulle te help om hulle eie huise te besit. Die oorsaak van die agterstand te behuising sal ek 'n paar voorbeelde noem. Die eerste is onwettige immigrasie. Mense stroom oor die grense van Suid-Afrika vanaf Afrika. Dit plaas groot druk op behuising. Dan is dit korrupsie. Ons hoef nie eens daaroor te praat nie. Ons weet hoeveel miljoene rande het in hierdie land verlore gegaan. Ons het nie kundige mense nie. Ek het in die Langkloof gesien, Misgind gebied noem hulle dit, 400 huise wat gebou is. 400 huise is afgebreek tot op die grond. Dit moes oorgebou word. 30 kilometer daarvandaan, een van die mooiste projekte wat ek nog aanskou het. Ek wens u kan dit saam met my gaan bywoon. Gelukkige inwoners, want daar was beheer en daar was toesig gewees. Ons moet onthou dat behuising 'n krisis in Suid-Afrika gaan word, groter as wat ons nou beleef. En een van die redes is die ontvolking van die platteland. Daar is nie werk nie. Mense stroom na die stede en een van die redes is as gevolg van geen werk nie. Nou wil ek vir u sê, beplanning is baie moeilik. Ek praat dikwels met amptenare van die munisipaliteite. Daar is duisende hektaar plaasgrond om die metro's. Maar om hulle te ontkoppel, om so ver te kry dat hulle gehersoneer kan word vir residensiële eiendom vir baie jare. Dit maak dat stadsbeplanners nie werklik vooruit kan beplan nie. Dan wil ek ook vir u net noem dat as gevolg daarvan doen plakkers dikwels met opset beset hulle onwettige grond in die hoop dat daar vir hulle dienste sal voorsien word. Nou vra ek myself af, hoe is dit moontlik? Die president van die land sê 'n paar maande gelede, hy sal nie toelaat dat grond onwettig beset word nie. Tussen Uitenaag, die Spatial Port Elizabeth, kort daarna gaan beset hulle die gebied. Tussen Uitenaag en die N2 gebeur dieselfde ding. Niks word gedoen nie, die raad swyg. En 2 weke later is ek deel van die groep mense wat staan, want hulle brand die pad. Dit veroorsaak polarisasie. Ek sê vir u, ons sal moet wakker skrik in Suid-Afrika as dit kom by die oplossing van die huisingsprobleem. Wat is die oplossing? Ons moet beter beheer toepas op ons grense.
Honorable, can you...
House Chair, is it parliamentary to misrepresent what the president said in this house? That he said people, they can occupy land illegally.
No, it's not a point of order. Can you take your seat, honorable member? Continue. Continue, honorable member.
Meneer die voorsitter, ons in Suid-Afrika, die sakevertroue is baie laag. Dit word voorspel dat daar gemiddelde groei van 1% per jaar gaan wees. Maar die bevolkingsaanwas is 1,5%. Wat vertel dit vir ons? Die agterstand gaan net groter en groter word. Wat staan ons te doen? So dikwels dan vra ons onsself af, wat moet die regering alles doen? Maar wat moet ons doen? Ek wil noem, ek is een van 11 kinders. Die 11 van ons het 21 kinders. As ons nie ook kyk na die bevolkingsaanwas van hierdie land nie, sê ek vir u, stuur ons op 'n ramp af. Ons as inwoners van hierdie land sal moet mooi dink om meer dan 2 of 3 kinders te hê. Ek wil afsluit. Dit is die verantwoordelikheid van elke leier in hierdie parlement om hoop uit te dra en vertroue en nie pessimisties te wees nie, want pessimisme is erger as ateïsme. Die Vryheidsfront sê ons moet hoop en ons moet moed hou, sterkte.
Honorable member. you. The next speaker is the Deputy Minister for Human Settlement, Water and Sanitation.
Honorable House Chairperson, Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlement and Water and Sanitation, the MECs that are here today from various provinces, Honorable Members of Parliament, Director General Mr. Mbulelo Changana, Chairs and CEOs of Human Settlement institutions, our sector, stakeholder, and honorable guests. I have the honor and privilege to deliver this year's budget vote speech when the country is celebrating 25 years since the dawn of democracy. It is a bittersweet pill, though, as we continue to be faced with challenges of growing numbers of unemployment, especially amongst the young people. Following the grueling election campaign, where we went door to door in all corners of the country, we were reminded of the plight of many South Africans who continue to live in squalor. This persists even though the government has delivered more than 4.7 million housing opportunities in the past 23 years, assisting more than 20 million people. Chairperson, as we have been mandated by electorate, the majority of whom voted for us, the African National Congress, to accelerate economic growth, tackle poverty and inequality as a matter of urgency. And this was reflected again in President Cyril Ramaphosa's statement on the announcement of the new national executive for the 6th administration, when he said, "We have been guided by the need to build a modern developmental state that has the means to drive economic and social transformation, to embrace innovation, and to direct effort and resources towards where they will have the greater impact." It is against this background, ladies and gentlemen, that as we take over baton and the responsibilities of moving South Africa forward through the creation of sustainable human settlement, we become catalytic on how collectively plan, coordinate investment and delivery amongst the different spheres of government and departments, the private sector and the civil society, in order to unlock developmental synergy. We will strengthen our efforts to deliver houses and create poverty alleviation measures to support the SMMEs, to play an active role in the human settlement value chain. Chairperson, we have seen that building houses through the People's Housing Process, that is PHP, self-help model works, it delivers the large number of impact thereof results in capacity building, empowerment programs and job creation. The department has supported the establishment of construction and non-construction cooperatives to deliver various services in human settlements value chain. The PHP Directorate participated in the National Upgrading Support Program core team meetings and contributed to the development of the new informal settlement. We are exploring and repositioning of the PHP program to interface with the informal settlement upgrade program by formalizing the self-help model. Modalities of this program still have to be refined and will form part of proposal to National Treasury for the informal settlements upgrading grant funding. The need to address housing for vulnerable communities, including military veterans, upgrading of informal settlement, and allocation of service sites can increase the rate of delivery and make a huge dent in reversing the housing backlog, which was caused by you. Now you don't know that you caused the backlog in this country. And to create jobs through implementation, UDA, implement of the PHP self-housing project A classic example of this is successful execution of the PHP program in Vulindlela Rural Housing Project in KwaZulu-Natal, which will deliver 25,000 housing units in completion and currently standing at more than 22,000 housing units delivered. Siyaqhuba, nobani boni siyaqhuba. Therefore, to commemorate the 63rd anniversary of the Women's March to the Union Building against apartheid passed laws, and we want to thank those women like Mama Sisulu, Winnie Mandela, who created You Are Here because of them, who decided to go and march for past laws. Even the houses that you are claiming today, if we're not there, we're not going to build houses today. Through the Department's Women's Build campaign, we will hand over houses built using PHP model in Ngahuni village outside Mdantsane in the Eastern Cape, participate in the construction of houses for vulnerable at the Warmer Enhanced PHP Housing Cluster project in the Nelson Mandela Metro, which is utilizing cooperatives method in the delivery of houses, among others. We will also participate in the construction of houses and women and elderly in the Veljun Skroon, we must change its name, PHC project in the Free State, and visit Mossel Bay, George and Neisner, where government is implementing the PHP project. Chairperson, as we assume the responsibility, we take into consideration the strides that have been made in relation to the empowerment of women and driving transformation agenda forward to the sector, in the sector. Thus, we urge all provinces that have not done so, MECs, listen to this, to start implementing the decision of the MINMEC to allocate 30% of their budget to women. We will monitor that. The time for structured incubator and mentorship program linked to allocations of projects to emerging women constructors and SMEs is now. Women have increasingly shown boldness and interest in other areas of the human settlements value chain, such as green building, infrastructure development, financing, materials, supply, property development, and management. We are looking forward to taking this conversation to the next level of implementation, where we meet the women in the built industry during the month of August. We will be in Mpumalanga in August. Siyaqhuba. Ladies and gentlemen, in December 2014, Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, during her address at the Youth Brigade seminar, said the reason for gathering was to indicate to the young people that our priority in job creation in the human settlement value chain was the youth and people with disabilities. She said, in you, we look forward to harnessing a necessary energy, eagerness to get both yourselves and elderly out of cycle of poverty caused by DA and unemployment that has become such a worrying factor in our country. Chairperson, we are happy to inform you today that indeed there are those young people and people with disabilities that have remained resolute and committed to the cause, and we will ensure that they get the necessary support and remove all unnecessary red tape and stumbling blocks that hinder their progress going forward, caused by you. Siyacela ke ngoko kubantu basemakhaya ukuba xa sizama ukwakha ezi zindlu singasebenzisi abantwana ukuba abancinci abana 14 years ukuba bayokutoyitoyela izindlu. Lo age yabantwana imele biseklasini ayikho stratweni. Masingasebenzisi ezobandlu nopolitiko, sisebenzisa abantwana besikolo. Nibulala ikamva labantwana, yekana abantwana bafunde. Kandigqibela, Chair, Ndithunukwa ngulo tate besuka apha. It's not in my speech, but ndinayo into ethi makhe ndiphendule. Eyokuqala into yeyokokuba sesinjena nje minister enkosi ngokwakha izindlu. Ootatomkhulu bethu babehlala kwii-hostels kungavunyelwa abafazi babona nokubabona. Andithethi uhlala ukuba uthi tata kabani bendizokuhambela inkomo ekhaya zifile ibingafunwa loo nto. Namhlanje ayibonwa into yoba ngo-1994, after 1994, abantu namakhosikazi ayakwazi uhambela abayeni babo emarhawutini. Today,
Your
sicela
time is
ngoba
up, Honorable Deputy Minister. Before you, Honorable Meshwe, would like to appeal to people at the gallery. You are supposed to listen, but you must not actively participate in the debate. Honorable Meshwe of the ACDP.
Chairperson, honorable members, challenges faced by residents of Alexandra are substantial, and the people of Alexandra deserve answers to what happened to the 1.4 billion rands of taxpayers' money that was allocated for the Alexandra Renewal Project. This money was supposed to be used to develop the township and build houses for residents who are living in very unhygienic conditions. There has been allegations for a number of years that most of the 1.4 billion rands that has gone missing with little or nothing to show for it, and nothing has been done about it. Most people who know about this ARP project are very disappointed that Treasury has not demanded full accountability for the missing funds. The vision of the medium-term strategic framework is to realize sustainable human settlements and improved quality of household life. Priorities include the delivery of 110,000 new housing units by the end of this year. But Chairperson, unless corruption is rooted out and accountability is demanded, this vision cannot be realized. Millions of our people are still living in squalid conditions in informal settlements where there are no basic services such as water and sanitation. On the 31st of May, we were shocked to see the demolition of about 80 houses in Sishwetla informal settlement in Alex. Protesters reacted by throwing stones, and sadly, 2 bonded houses were torched in the process. JMPD spokesperson, Chief Superintendent Wayne Minar, later said that the demolished houses were illegally built and too close to the river. The ACDB believes that it is cruel to allow people to build houses illegally and then send the red ants later to demolish those houses. People must be stopped from invading illegal land in the first place, because if they don't do that, people will go in there and their houses will be demolished again. Government should subsidize and encourage self-help schemes throughout the country so that many of our people can start building their own houses. If this is not done, then informal settlements will forever be with us. Now, the ACDP is not going to support this budget and subsequent budgets until a criminal investigation into the unaccounted for 1.4 billion rands has been concluded, and steps against the thieves and all those who benefited from corruption at the expense of the needy people of Alexandra have been taken. Unless it is done, the ACDP is not going to support the subsequent budget. Thank you.
Time is up. Honorable Olomisa from UDM.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, and Honorable Members, siyavuya uthi uphinde wabuya lophuma niyangena wenu umuntu asebenze 6 months phinde ukhutshwe so uzawuchitha another 18 months uklina la mess kanomvula ngoku phinde uhambe. Part of the problem is that each new minister thinks he or she is a new broom that will sweep away all the problems with a new style and idea of what will work. It is, however, patently clear that the lack of policy consistency and effective implementation is a big obstacle. Without continuity, performance cannot be accurately measured. As the UDM sees it, there must be a dramatic shift from crisis management to a more proactive and comprehensive approach. We can achieve winning housing for a winning nation only through a master plan that encompasses uniform infrastructure development, which accomplishes housing projects. The UDM supports the housing budget proposal with the following, but not limited to, provisions. Okokuqala kufuneka sike sisuggeste minister ukuthi makube khona lento kuthiwa i-Presidential Council on Sustainable Development, where all the departments ezawudilishana ne-infrastructure zidityaniswe zisoko zicoordinator all the time. Nibe ne-map ezawuthi ibonakalisa ukuthi xa sisakha indlela ezi zibheke ekuthini le i-highway, i-housing zizakwakhiwa ndawoni, and kule nto ye-integration yokuthi abantu mabasondele endaweni zokuphangela zizawubekwa phi. Currently, akho discipline in this country. Wonke umuntu wakha nje naphi, naseqala kwe-highway, naseqala kwe-railway line. I-discipline iphelile, so sithi ke lilonke njengomuntu osuka kwa-international relations noko kudala uhamba, uyayazi le concept ye-presidential sustainability, ye-Council on Sustainable Development. Siyabulela.
Thank you. Honorable Mahau from ATM. It looks like she's not here. Can we move to the next one? Honorable M.A. Tseki from the ANC.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to honorable members, staff, guests, and South Africa as a whole. Today, as we meet here to vote for this budget, we are indebted to the people of our beautiful land, the land in which the beauty was disorganized by settlers who came to settle. They found us peaceful and abused our philosophy of Ubuntu as Koi and San, and turn our country into violence that the United Nations declared as a crime against humanity, lest we forget. The people of South Africa gave our glorious alliance movement further years to lead the revolution for building an egalitarian South Africa. We are determined to respond and act according to the mandate of the people as a contract with the voters of the South. At the end of our manifesto states, I quote, "You, meaning the people, help us to develop this manifesto. We must work together to effectively implement it," close quote. In that, we are listening and hear the people of Ratanda, the people of Seshego, the people of Herschel, Hamrena Kakudi, and in all corners of the land, calling loudly that we dare not fail in leading this noble transformation agenda. Just some few points from the opposition. A member Basson and member Mukute, I think the challenge that you are facing, you are supporting the African National Congress, but the unfortunate, you are supporting it with different form of support, which is anger. So you must say it clear when you support, rather than being angry. And for those that are not attending, I guess Jammer van meneer May, omdat hy kom nie vir ons gadering nie. The department and the portfolio committee are in a total agreement that human settlement, water and sanitation gives comfort, gives lives, gives dignity to the people of the land. Our centrality of oversight is for this budget to achieve exactly that. Policy
On a
formulation.
point of order, Chairperson.
What is the point of order?
I think the honorable member is misleading the House.
What is the
because
point of order?
The EFF didn't support.
What is the point of order?
The point of order is the member is misleading the public.
That's not a point of order.
Yeah, we didn't support
Can you
the
take
budget.
your seat, honorable member?
And we won't support the ANC.
That's not a point
We're
of
not
order.
sleeping with the ANC here.
That's
Yes.
not a point of order. Continue, honorable member.
The policy formulation is to advance intergovernmental relations to coordinate harmonization of plans of all spheres of government. Tripartite forums that constitute government, business, and civil society in all projects will take us a long way. This even will deter the unscrupulous behavior, including selling and buying of the RDP house before the 8-year term, and to clarify the notion of who is the preferential buyer of government houses. The current studies reflect that informal settlement, which will be upgraded soon, it is because of high level of inequality to access land, and this parliament is engaged on the rapid land release, integrated residential development programs, different typologies of units like rentals and subsidy deliverology that will be implemented soon. These programs are leading towards a bigger project of access to land through expropriation. South Africa will never be the same again. Upgrading of informal settlements means not anymore that third and second generation will live in this kind of situation, albeit there are dynamics in this formal settlement, but change will happen. Collaboration of stakeholders at all spheres of government should plan within the definition of what human settlement, water and sanitation means. That a house develops to be a home with the social amenities and the grants that government provides and the integrated planning from the department are enablers. I think siyavumelana notatu general in terms of integrated planning. Will make development, department as enablers for human settlement, to have townships to be proclaimed, to have electricity, to have water sanitation, to enable us and the electricity, water, sanitation, roads, health, education, recreation, and business facilities, etc. These are the prerequisite of any projects to happen, that if we are having a joint planning, not in silos, we are going to meet the requirements of defining human settlement. This is a big difference from building house and building human settlement. This government is investing on assets that creates value. Government will also partner through entities, through its entities with other cooperatives, locally and internationally, with the emphasis of gender mainstreaming. We agreed with the department on considering publication of the needs register. Minister, I think this is very important, to address those people who say they've since applied for the RDP since 1994. President, our beloved leader, we are on track to build a smart city. I therefore, on behalf of this glorious movement, support the adoption of the budget for the 33.8 billion for 2019-2018 years. Just a few points in relation to what the opposition have said. The backlog, Meneer Basson, I think you should not put yourself away from the history of this country. Every time as the DA, when you speak, you should be able to reflect, why are we in this mess? We're in this mess because you created this mess. And in all what you have said,
point of order,
you are actually saying in all what you have...
Can you hold on, honorable member? What is the point of order?
Chairperson, he is mentioning Mr. Basson by name as he himself
Meneer
was
Basson, ek het gesê,
No,
meneer
you cannot
Basson.
cast aspersions on the
Meneer
member.
Minister is one
You
thing.
can't cast aspersions.
Honorable Tseki, let me intervene on your behalf. I think The order is not sustained. Can you carry on? Manier was said.
Chairperson.
Manier is honorable.
Chairperson.
Chairperson.
But I must encourage that.
Chairperson.
Can you take a seat, honorable?
Ngicela ukucheck ukuthi umhlonishwa angawuthatha yini umbuzo.
Ungawuthatha umbuzo, honorable.
Angikwazi ukuthatha umbuzo mhlonishwa. Zawuthatha ukuxwayela
Chairperson,
izayo.
sorry.
Next time. Yes.
It is not about calling him Meneer or Honorable. It's casting aspersions saying to Mr. Basson he himself was responsible for the trouble. As a person.
That's
That
not
is
a
the point that I'm making, Chair.
Oh, honorable, can you please take your seat? That's not a point of order. Continue, honorable. Thank you.
That means you guys are excited. Oh, sorry, let me not go there. Minister and Chairperson,
Honorable, can you take your
let
seat?
me withdraw this. Let me withdraw you guys. I'm withdrawing that part. I was saying, members on my left are getting excited. It reflects on the truth of what I've said. The last point I want to say is that for those members, honorable members who are not attending.
Honorable members, we must not drown the speaker. Please.
For those members who are not attending our portfolio committee meeting, they will continue to come to this platform and say things that were not discussed in the meeting. So don't remote our discussion. You must be part of the discussion and attend the meeting of the portfolio committee. On that note, Chair, you can see Nkofu Pula.
Thank you, Honorable August from Good.
Honorable Chairperson, now is the time to put back the human into human settlements. The conditions in which poor people live is the truest measure of the health of any society. In order to accurately appraise these conditions, it is important to consider context and honestly acknowledge that which is good, bad, and ugly. South Africa can be very proud of the number of fully subsidized homes to accommodate poorer families over the past 25 years. I'm not sure if any other country on earth can boast having given away 2.5 million plumbed and piped brick and mortar homes in this period. Few can disagree that this is good service delivery. The quality of the construction work has sometimes been poor, and the numbers indicate that delivery of new homes has slowed down over the past 10 years. It is clear delivery is not keeping pace with demand, so that's bad. That we have built all these homes without unstitching apartheid spatial planning, perpetuating the Group Areas Act model that reserved the best land for white people while consigning black people to the peripheries of our towns and cities is shameful and ugly. Where people live matters. Honorable Chairperson, Minister Sisulu has set ambitious targets to the department which include committing to ending the indignity of the bucket toilet system within 6 months. Good will monitor these targets and hold the Minister to account. Honorable Minister, South Africa wants to champion your vision as we keep our fingers on the pulse of good service delivery to ensure we fix South Africa. This is critical considering your department's budget should be well used and not misused. The Minister has returned to a department she knows intimately. She has another opportunity to begin to reshape our towns and cities, to continue providing families with comfort, security, and home, and title deeds that can afford them across the economic security. With another opportunity to address the relationship between space and race, I am painfully reminded how our people were dumped between bridges and highways that today still separate us by race. We must build more quality homes a lot faster, and we must address urban sprawl, spatial division, and injustice by filling in the empty spaces and integrate our people. There's only one way to fix South Africa. With a good starting point, use all public land for public good. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Nyonso.
Chairperson, the approach should be informed by the position of the PAC of one family, one plot. As far as PAC is concerned, it is the size of the plot and the allocation process now. People are crying out loud for land and build decent homes and move out of shacks. Instead, you want to put money into confining them into the indignity of being landless shack dwellers, who as a result end up being victims of crime on a daily basis. The African masses are tired of hearing fairy tales and lullabies and how much money will be wasted without changing their daily realities. They want decent homes, Minister. They want crime-free environment. And take land, Minister. Don't repossess unused land. Repossess land. Aba belungu bawuba lo mhlaba bawuxutha. Repossess and restore the land to its owners. We are the owners of this land. Nani yokwenzana emzabalazweni kanti ngoni ufuna umhlaba ongasetshenziswayo. Nani esiyaphi? Because lungasetshenziswa wawukhona kakade sifuna lo bakuwo ngoku. Take the land and restore the land to the African people. This land belongs to us. Build homes for military veterans, Minister, regardless of political affiliation. True veterans, zihlala emikhukhwini. Abantwana bahlele ezindlini besithi basi veterans. That must change, Minister. PAC, reject this budget.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Hendricks.
Honourable Chair, we want to tell the Minister, stop giving money to provinces and municipalities, spend it yourself. Al-Jamaa welcomes the do-it-yourself houses and look forward to it. Gentrification, Honourable Minister, must be on your radar as developers destroy communities, which is the new apartheid. Minister, it is good to have, Honourable Chair, it is good to have the Minister back. But the 2.2 billion rand drop in the budget is sad, but Al-Jamaa is sure the quality of leadership will make up for this. We cannot wait for the Minister to expropriate the land in the Western Cape stolen from the people. Minister, you have now given hope to the people of the Cape Flats and Philippi, which has been the Cinderella of every government since 1948. On another note, Minister, start budgeting for the cyber civilization that the country needs. Minister, don't forget rural areas such as Kura, Dumeo, and Umgai and electrify them from your 14 million rand budget. The 647 million rand for disaster recovery in KZN is a start, not enough. Please roll it out to Umdoni and Umzumbi in the Ugi district where we have councillors. The African child must not live in sewerage, eat in sewerage, and learn in sewerage. So we call on the ministries to implement the National Management Environment Act in informal settlements and to jail officials of municipalities hell bent on harming the dignity of the African child. Human Development Bank must provide interest-free loans. I agree with the minister, it must go to women as they are good payers. Research I picked up in Indonesia where 99% of 5 million women pay back their loans, which is interest-free. I saw the joy on their faces. I would like to see the joy on the faces of women in our own country. Minister, we said at the beginning, please stop giving money to provinces and municipalities. You yourself mentioned to them that you give them the money and they don't spend it. They are afraid of what Al-Jamaa calls black creep in the previously advantaged areas. In Massachusetts, for example, near the Simonstown Naval Base, you find that every attempt is made to prevent black creep. There is land available. Minister, please unleash the land.
Honourable Member, your time is now
Thank you very
expired.
much.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Tseke.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, honorable members, Minister, Deputy Minister, and the Human Settlement family. Re le mokgatlo o busang wa African National Congress, re rata go leboga setšhaba sotlhe se se tsereng karolo mo dikgethong tsa ngwaga o. Re ikana gore re tla tokafatsa matshelo a bona go ya ka matshelo a lona go ya ka lenaneotlhomo la African National Congress. Ibile re a netefatsa re le maloko a ntlogolo ya bosetšhaba gore re tla tswela pele ka go bona gore lefapha la kago ya matlho le ditirelo le tlisa ditirelo tse di maleba go batho ba Aforika Borwa bogolo setona ba ba dikobo dikhutshwane re lebeletse thata bomme le batho ba ba nang le bogole. Honorable House Chairperson, as outlined in the strategy and tactics document of the ANC, will act as agents of change in the centers of power that we are deployed in, be it in the state, the economy, the mass organization, and international work. We will exercise our leadership not by decree or through arrogance, but in terms of the logic, acumen, and from the exemplary conduct. Honesty, hard work, humility, and respect will be displayed to our people at all the times. As the minister said when she was handing over the title deeds in Konopia last week, the ANC will also fast-track the issue of title deeds to housing beneficiaries, further strengthening the partnership with private sector in the development, which has resulted in the creation of the inclusive modern settlement made of decent housing units, malls, industrial factories, retail parks, and office spaces for various businesses. Minister, we welcome these initiatives and we pledge our support for the next coming 5 years, and we'll make sure that we conduct our oversight as the members of this House. Honorable members, it is for this reason too that as the African National Congress, we supported this budget vote so that we can implement Clause 9 of the Freedom Charter, which says all the people shall have the right to live where they choose, to be decently housed, and to bring up their families in comfort and security. Honorable members, before 1994, as the minister has confirmed, 5 million people were living in 1.5 million self-constructed informal dwellings. And since we took power in 1994, we have built more than 4 million houses. And I think this is a good story to tell. We have also created institutional mechanism to facilitate housing delivery, e.g. the National Housing Finance Corporation, Social Housing Regulatory Authority, Housing Development Agency, the National Home Builders Regulatory Council. We have adopted the Breaking New Ground policy to build integrated community, which have impact in most of our areas. Today we can tell a good story about the N2 Gateway Housing Project in the Western Cape, in Cosmos City in Gauteng, Alo Rich Social Housing Project in Pietermaritzburg in KZN, Umhlatuzi Catholic Project which is in KZN, the Bridge City Integrated City which is also in KZN in Durban. Honorable Chair, we also support the 1.2 billion of the budget allocated to human settlement entities, and we'll continuously hold them accountable to see if the money allocated is spent wisely and productively. The establishment of a human settlement development bank will also assist in the delivery of houses. In his SONA, His Excellency President Ramaphosa said, if the South African government is to effectively address the substantial housing backlog, models of financing human settlement needed to be developed. He said the Human Settlement Development Bank will leverage both public and private sector financing to aid housing delivery. It will assist in expanding the People's Housing Program, where households are allocated service funds to build their own houses, either individually or through community-led cooperatives. We support the capital and operational funding allocated to this development bank for the administration and management of the finance link subsidy program and the housing subsidy, which of course will assist the first-time home buyers with purchasing a home. Honorable members, the National Home Builders Registration Council's mandate is to protect the interest of housing consumers and to ensure that builders comply with the prescribed building industry standards. Its aim is to assist and protect housing consumers from any unscrupulous home builders who deliver substandard housing, bad workmanship, and poor quality material, no matter the size or value of your home building project. Honorable members, we'll put this entity as one of our priorities in our agenda as we continue to experience defaults in many of the houses across the country. We ask them to clean up the inspection and crack down on allegations of inspectors committing fraud and other malpractices. The Social Housing Regulatory Authority also has failed over a period of time to utilize the grants allocated to them, resulting in poor performance in the implementation of its mandate. We'll strengthen our oversight as the portfolio committee in this regard too. The community ombuds services must also improve in terms of their revenue management system, chairperson. And the Housing Development Agency also has some challenges of not utilizing the grants allocated to them, which resulted in retaining their unspent money to the National Treasury. Overall, Minister, governance of the entities has been weakened as reported also in the media. The boards are accountable to you. Call them to assist and apply sound governance, or they must simply resign and step aside, so that you can appoint competent and focused people who will have the interest of our people at heart. Human settlement entities are important and critical for our service, for our delivery machinery. They are our special purpose vehicles on service delivery, and we expect to live up to the mandate for they are created to fulfill. We fully support the alignment of the entities must fully align to their performance plans with the performance plan of the department. Anything less than that should be seen as a treason and betraying the mandate given by the African National Congress. In conclusion, honorable members, the House shelters daydreaming. The House protects the dreamer. The House allows one to dream in peace, says Gaston Bachelard. The ANC supports budget vote 38 of the Department of Human Settlement. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair, Ministers, Deputy Ministers, and colleagues and members in the gallery. The National Freedom Party welcomes the report tabled here today. We acknowledge that this department has, over the last 25 years, put in place policies, strategies, etc., to deal with the issue of housing in South Africa. Now, that is a mandate that it gets in terms of its constitution. Now, I want to plead to the Minister while the Minister is here. Minister, I would urge you to spend one night, just one night, in one of these RDP houses in winter. Just spend a few hours at night and look at what life is for our people in these homes that we built for them. That's why I don't call them homes, I call them houses, and I feel there's a difference between a house and a home. The substandard, the quality, the lack of proper sanitation and water, this is the life of our people 25 years into democracy. Now, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not saying there was no good work being done. Yes, indeed, millions of our people have been provided houses by the ANC, by the DA, by the IFP, by the NFP, wherever they've governed. Let us be honest about it. We've built houses. But 25 years later, millions of our people either remain homeless, many of them die waiting on that waiting list for a home, and they cannot get one. And the question is, why? What haven't we been doing correct? Now, the National Freedom Party have been repeatedly calling for a change in the model. And I'm glad that in the State of the Nation address in February, the President announced a Human Settlement Development Bank. We don't believe that is enough, because it is not only the government's responsibility to provide funding. And that is why we said, Minister, provide adequate, fully service sites to the people. Create this development bank, and not only through the state, but also to outside investment, so that they can all participate in providing housing. It'll also be creating a lot of jobs. The entire economy is going to be driven with this. And a lot more people will get houses a lot sooner than they are getting right now. Now, if you look at the current situation in South Africa, even with the homeless is growing, what we are not taking into consideration while we're building houses is the increase in population, which is increasing by 800,000, almost 1 million a year. Now, if you don't take that into consideration, it means the challenge of housing in South Africa is going to remain. And I want to urge the department, and one of the major problems we've got with all the departments, and that is the departments are not adequately functioning in the interest of servicing the people, with such a large proportion of our budget going to compensation to employees. It is time to fire those people who
Member, your
cannot
time is
perform.
now expired.
The National Freedom Party will support this budget vote on the basis that we're going to go forward in providing decent housing to our people. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is the Honorable Paul.
Chairperson, on the 11th of March 2017, while working in local government, I woke to a frantic telephone call informing me that a devastating fire had broken out in Hout Bay and was ripping through the informal settlement of Imizamietu. I arrived 20 minutes later to scenes that I can only describe as tragedy. Helicopters rounded the mountains in dangerous winds, while firefighters traversed the steep terrain trying to extinguish the fire where the winds were spreading it west. As we navigated our way up through the settlement to meet officials, we were passed by men and women hurrying down the mountain to safety, carrying on their backs their last remaining possessions: mattresses, couches, suitcases of clothes, steeling their resolve to get down that hill and away from the fire that had already swallowed whole their homes. Children, some dazed, lost, and confused, screaming hysterically as they ran after their terrified mothers barefoot. And as we approached the top of the settlement, where the fire had first started, the acrid smell of burning bodies permeated the soot-filled sky. 3 people died that day. 2,000 homes of some of our nation's poorest people were destroyed, and 10,000 people were displaced. The Honourable Minister Sisulu will remember that fire well, because she visited the recovery operation once in coming days. It was, of course, the last the city heard or saw from the ministry.
Point of order.
Honourable Member at the podium, take your seat, please. Honourable Powell, will you just sit down, please? Why are you rising, Honourable Member?
House Chairperson, it's parliamentary convention that when a member makes a maiden speech, that they're not heckled and howled at like the Honourable Member at the back there is doing.
Yes. No, honourable members, it is a parliamentary tradition and convention that we do that, unless the member, of course, is provocative. But let us respect the member at the podium, and also not allow for running commentary, right? We don't allow it in the National Assembly, running commentary on speeches. Continue,
On a
Honourable
point
Powell.
of order, Honourable Chairperson.
Why are you rising, Honourable Member?
You were not here, and the member was sitting here. She was sitting there, and she was very provocative herself. So it seems as if she's not making her maiden speech.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Sure.
The Honourable Member is delivering a maiden speech. Continue, Honourable Member.
Informal settlement fires are not unique to Cape Town and its strong headwinds. For the 2017 municipal reporting period, 5,283 informal dwelling fires were recorded across South Africa. The value of this loss, carried by already cash-strapped municipalities, equated to more than 179 million rand. Chairperson, no one should have to live in an informal dwelling with the constant threat of losing their home to fire. Sadly, according to National Treasury, more than 13% of South Africans live in informal homes. Rapid urbanization is making it increasingly difficult to address existing backlogs, let alone respond to new demands. The vast majority of municipalities do not even have inventories of their informal settlements, which makes understanding the magnitude of informality almost impossible. There is something fundamentally wrong with a system in which millions of people do not have their most fundamental need for basic shelter met because the state and the economy have failed them. Chair, it is abundantly clear that the problems with the current approach to housing are numerous. South Africa's housing allocation system is unable to cope with the complexity of migration across provinces, and the outstanding backlog on the housing database is rousing an ever-increasing tide of frustration, resulting in violent riots across our country. The informal sale of RDP houses means that desperate South Africans are selling their homes on the informal market to fund their basic living costs, and then again end up living in backyards or in zinc structures built on inhabitable land, such as wetlands and flood basins prone to fire and flooding. The ANC's commitment to political expediency and populism has meant that calls by desperate municipalities for legislative amendments to the Prevention of Illegal Evictions Act have been ignored, resulting in greenfield sites obtained for development being illegally invaded before even basic earthworks can be completed, once more perpetuating the cycle of informality. The sluggish pace of land reform combined with whole-scale government corruption has meant that land intended for development has not been forthcoming. And in response to the slow pace of reform, our ruling elite has sought to obscure their failures with populist calls for expropriation without compensation. In the face of this ever-shifting landscape, our national legislation on the issue of housing remains archaic, expensive, and frankly, the most fundamental hindrance to executing real and lasting change. And juxtaposing this crisis in bitter irony is an air that has for years been thick with promises of reform. The National Development Plan, the Breaking New Ground program, Tuma Mina, the so-called New Dawn. But on the ground, we are yet to see these reforms materialize into genuine change. Instead, the country's leaders have the audacity to stand at this very podium and make lofty statements about great dreams of smart cities and bullet trains, while the people of our land languish in the dust of our leaders' apathy. Honourable members, we as legislators sit in this House entrusted with the last remaining rubble of our nation's hope.
Chairperson, on a point of order.
What is
You
the
can
point of
see
order?
the member.
What is the point of order, Honourable Member?
Yeah, the member is supposed to be presenting a maiden speech.
No, Honourable
She
Member,
cannot
that's,
be
no,
offensive.
Honourable Member, that's why I'm allowing members to interject and to respond to what she says.
All right.
Let me
So-
chair the session. Thank you. Continue, Honourable Member.
Honourable members, we as legislators sit in this House entrusted with the last remaining rubble of our nation's hope. And we are charged with seeking out honest and evidence-based solutions that will finally turn the tides on the poverty of our people. The Democratic Alliance will not stand by in silence and watch our great nation reduced to a begging bowl of informality. And as a result of the need for change, it is the Democratic Alliance that has worked most studiously to develop an innovative housing policy. The DA recognizes that after years of corruption, the state resources to give every family a home simply do not exist. The department needs to move away from building freestanding structures and instead build compact, environmentally friendly developments close to economic opportunities using the latest building methodologies the open market can offer. Under a DA housing policy, National Treasury would implement tighter regulations on the expenditure of the Urban Settlements Development Grant to ensure that this money is actually used to alleviate the housing backlog. A DA housing policy would provide vouchers to qualifying beneficiaries, allowing them to build their own homes on government-provided service sites. And social housing units in mixed income developments would be made available by leveraging bulk rights to ensure that developers add at least 25% additional low-cost units onto all new developments. Chair, what is clear is that the DA has already developed solutions to address the housing crisis. If only the ANC could look past their cheap political expediency and invoke their imaginations to envisage a different way of doing things, then we may begin to see the incredible power that good policy can wield in the lives of desperate South Africans. In finding these solutions, we must remember that the decisions we take today will shape tomorrow's future. I urge the leaders in this House to urgently seek innovative ways of bringing about change, instead of seeking innovative ways to pocket it. The clock is ticking, and it's 5 minutes to midnight. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Machego.
The last time I heard of the surname Powell was a KZN IFP person. I'm just reminding you, Minister, Chairperson, Chief Whips and Deputy Chief Whips. We are happy that, Minister, you are committed that you are going to iron out difficulties of service delivery in housing, but also that in doing so, you're still going to give houses to people whilst you are doing your work. Already, you have already started to identify areas where these houses are going to be built speedily in provinces that you have already mentioned. You also have said that triple Ps shall be used to fast-track the processes thereof. We must just warn you, however, Minister, that, for instance, over the weekend I was in Ekurhuleni. The Ekurhuleni municipality has committed to give houses to the people of Ekurhuleni. There are people with some colors that are in here who definitely does not want to allow that process to continue. Simple for purposes of the fact that they either have sold the land themselves or they themselves has already occupied the stands and the houses you are wanting to give deliberately. It is for that reason you will hear them here debating that you demolish people's houses when it is illegal houses built on illegal land. And I think we really need to continue to demolish houses that are built wrongfully and arrest those that are building those particular houses. Minister, I think the House must not forget that in the world, there is only one party in government, the African National Congress, that could have built 1 million and more houses within a very short space of time. And of course, and we still believe that the fact that you have identified that there are still 3 million people that are still outstanding, it's a good sign that you are going to work towards eradicating those particular houselessness in our area. But we must also understand that people are moving in bulk and beaches into the cities, and they are populating the structure that makes it difficult for you to do. However, the fact that you are wanting to bring back the PHPs, which is going to give us the help me to build a house, is going to be very important, more especially with the fact that there is a Human Settlement Development Bank that we are proposing that it must now be restarted. It will give credence to this issue. Chairperson, I think we must try to help those that their memory is short. Meneer May, ek dink jy was hier die tyd wat die majoriteit van die mense van Suid-Afrika het nie toegelaat om huis te hê nie. En jy het niks gesê daarvan op daai tyd. Vandag ons gee huise vir elke mens in Suid-Afrika. Dit maak nie saak wit, swart, geel of blauw. Maar jy het 'n probleem daarvan. Ek kan dit nie verstaan nie. Minister, it is our view that the fact that you are agreeing with the ANC that indeed housing symbolizes dignity, security of tenure, financial security and safety and comfort to our people. It is a good thing that even the DA, they themselves, in their own words, they confirm that housing is not necessarily a benefit but a right. And you are, in your word, you are saying that that right must never be taken away from anybody. We must give houses to everybody, as we have already said. You are copying from original and you make original yours when you are a fake. We also do know, Chair, that Minister, that the issue of on the backlog that is there on the title deed, we want to believe that in your MSTF and the DHS will have to deliver houses in a very speedy manner that will have to bring about that dignity to our own people. Accelerate the eradication of title deeds backlog. And I think you have said in your statement that you are going to have a process of bringing back those particular title deeds every Friday. We believe that it must not only be Friday. If you believe there is also even time, even on Saturday and Sundays, please do that. The title deed retrocession, we know that at some point it was given 518.6 million, and today it is given 547.7 million in the 2019-2020 financial year. What we will look very interestingly as the ANC minister is that there must be no non-spending of this particular money. The 547.7 must be spent, title deeds must be given to people, and we believe this Friday's issuing of the title deeds will help to do that. We also know that at some point there was a program called One Learner, One Estate Agency, Youth Development Brigade Program. That program brought about knowledge and understanding of the student to understand the real estate and its implications. But we know that at some point that program was not funded. We are asking that that program must be brought back and be funded, because besides creating a bit of a job, but it also created knowledge which we might need in the long run from young people. It is our view that, Chair, unless we do that, we will have a difficulty of complementing the fact that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, both black and white, and therefore, we, as the ANC, want to support this particular budget. And I think we must also say that it is not true that in the committee, there was a part that did not support the budget. There was a unison in the committee of supporting. So those that are saying they did not support, they were not in a meeting, we must appreciate and forgive them. But the fact is that all of us who are members of that committee have adopted the portfolio, the budget, and for that reason, I want to thank those that have already moved and seconded that we support this budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now invite the Honourable Minister of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation to reply to the debate.
Oh my God, how did it come to 5 minutes?
That's 5 minutes, Minister.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of those who have supported the vote. I'd like to thank in particular the ANC members who stood here and debated on this matter. As I stood here and talked, I could see that these are people who come from a party that is steeped in understanding what it is that they come to Parliament for. You could learn from them, and what they were saying, you could see they had read up on what they were saying. They were not just here to howl and demean and all of those things. Thank you very much to the honorable members. I want to thank also in particular to the chair for giving excellent direction to the committee. And I want to say at this point that I am glad that at this point we have brought together the two departments of human settlements and water and sanitation, because it makes our work in human settlements so much easier to work. A great number of our projects have been blocked in the past while we waited for water licenses. Now we will have one streamlined delivery, and we will be able to deliver better. And at this point, I'd like to recognize the presence of the Deputy Minister Mahlobo here for water and sanitation purposes. Thank you. Deputy Minister of Human Settlements, you do me proud. You've covered most of what I would have wanted to say, and I will not go over that, especially in relation to responding to Honorable Basson. Yes, millions of our people are living in appalling conditions. That is the backlog that we inherited from apartheid. Where else did you think we would find it? And we are building every day. We are building every day to make life better for our people. Do you know where most of the other people come from? They are evicted by farmers in the Western Cape, your people. Evicted on a daily basis. And this must stop. Yes, it must stop. Then we have members of the DA coming here to say they have best practice. It is absolute rubbish. Let me tell you, when we ran this province, we delivered 16,700 houses per year. The DA came in, and you know what? They deliver a shameful 7,400. What is that to teach us? This is not true. This is statistically proven. Go and look at it. Go and check it. Go and check it, yes. And I'd like to say to the EFF, it is unfortunate that you desist from supporting this bill, because deep inside you, you know you support every step of what we're doing, every step of what we're doing. Simply, just to be different, and whatever it is, you decide that you're going to blame someone else and absolve yourself. However, I do know that the message fell on very fertile ground, and this vote will go through with your support at some point. I'd like to say to the IFP, we are very concerned about the rural areas and rural towns, and we are dealing with this. It is in our policy. Please read our policy. We've been at this policy for a very long time. The reason why we've won international awards is precisely because it is world best practice. I want to indicate to the member that we are very concerned about the IFP constituency that lives in our hostels. We've built hostels, we've built renovated hostels, and they refuse to move from the original hostels. If you come along and persuade them, we will move them into decent accommodation. And so that when you come here next time, you will not be grumbling about that. The FF member says that he was a policeman, and it confirms my worst fears. Once a policeman, always a policeman. Even in the way of thinking, can't get over to becoming a politician. And again, please assist us with making sure you can police your farmers from throwing out our people from their land and evicting them. Honorable Meshwe, thank you for reminding us about the levels of poverty. This is what we are dealing with every day. I don't know, apart from praying, what it is that you are doing and your party. We are solving the problem of Alexander renewal, and the allegation of missing billions is something that we are concerned about. Perhaps you can approach, Honorable Mesha, you can approach the IFP to help put this on Meta or on Scopa so that we can get to the bottom of this. We are also very in agreement with you on this. The UDM, I'm here now. He is not here. Okay. I would like him to.
Honorable. No.
Oh,
Honorable Minister, your time has expired.
Thank you to all of you for supporting this bill, and Gebe, you can now move over to the ANC. That's how close you are to.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much.
Honorable members, you are reminded of the following debates at 4:30 this afternoon. The transport budget vote debate will take place in the National Assembly. The debate on science and technology budget vote will take place in the Old Assembly. And the debate on statistics South Africa budget vote will take place in committee room E249. That concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary. The mini plenary will now rise.